Hi, this is Mike Rankin with Relational Spotlight, and today I have with me Jim Abbott, the world-renowned baseball pitcher and public speaker and good friend as well. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Fantastic.
So, I was doing a little bit of research on you. So we've known each other for, 6 years or so now, maybe five, 6 years since our daughters are roommates and friends at University of Michigan, the great University of Michigan.
Yes.
But I was looking at, do you know how many pitchers have thrown a no-hitter, roughly?
I don't. I've heard the number before. I want to say 300 and something.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know,
you're right.
like that,
As of this morning, anyway. Assuming that Google was accurate, it's 322.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many did that with one hand?
I don't know. Not many. Maybe
No.
not at the major league level. There's probably several who've done it at the lower levels, but
Major leagues, I think there's only one.
yeah.
It's you, my man.
Thank you. It was a special day. It was, I had no idea how life-changing one day could be, and I think there's a message there. But it was really great to play for the Yankees, and it's really great to have that small little slice of Yankee history.
It is just fantastic to go back and watch, and if one hasn't gone and Googled your name and the no-hitter, there's some great YouTube video on there of that. It really is it's powerful stuff. And one of the things that made me, aside from just you being one of the nicest guys, in addition to your history, but have you on, is I think we were at dinner talking about one of the things that is near and dear to my heart, which is, young people coming up, whether it's through high school or college and coming into this world. It is a little bit of a different world than when, you and I came up. I mean, in the 1980s, it was, put some dirt on it and get back out there. That was the psychological coaching at the time. But trying to share some of the insights that we have as a community with our, younger generations and help them kind of navigate this world. And as we were talking through dinner, your older daughter, I think, was maybe going through open enrollment for her insurance, right? And so that kind of kicked off a conversation you probably didn't anticipate getting into at dinner time.
No.
But it was one of those things where it just, the light bulb goes on for me. I do it every day, and how many young people coming up are kind of faced with this, oh, gee, it's my open enrollment, and, what do I do? So how did Maddie end up navigating through that? She get all her elections done as far as you're aware?
Yeah, she did end up taking, you had great advice, and I'm a little embarrassed because, as professional athletes coming out of college, and really that being my first job, everything's handed to you on a silver platter. And so I didn't have a lot of those answers for her, you need to think about these kinds of questions, whether it's healthcare related or when do you start 401k,
right.
When do you start planning for your future?
Yep.
And I think they do a better job of that now at the professional level with athletes in every sport.
More financial education around that. Yeah.
And while they hold your hand through a lot of decisions, it's really important for athletes to be involved and understand what the options are. And I know in my case, I wasn't as well informed as I should have been, so I had to go to an expert like you to provide a little bit of advice. And she had several options at this new company, and I think she made the right decision. But it's
not a natural one that we're accustomed to. I remember I think I had asked you for some of their documents, and I looked at the different plan options, and I said, okay, well, here's how she should maybe think about this and that, and whether do you go with the HSA plan or not. And it's really a foreign language for even for some of us that are in our 40s and 50s, right, as opposed to just somebody new coming in who's never seen it before.
Absolutely, it is a foreign language. You call called me, Dad, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I mean, this is, HSA accounts and all that. And
talk to Mr. Rankin.
Tax advantages and putting it in and when you can take it out.
Yep.
And I learned a lot from our conversation and since then doing some investigation into it. But, it really behooves you as it's one thing you learn when you retire. You get to professional baseball or professional sports and, they kind of give you these forms to sign and it's hard, it's a hard living. It's a hard way to compete. And so you put every ounce of your attention and ability into that. And then the world spits you out. And, frankly, a lot of us just aren't as prepared
whether
as
you're ready
we should
or not.
be.
Right. Exactly. And, on that point, like the comment that you just made is how I feel that maybe a lot of young people are feeling. I get, when one is in high school and they're focused on getting into college, and in college they're focused on doing well and building relationships and all of that, and then you're kind of shot out of a cannon, right? And you have all of this choice and maybe not all the guidance that you need, and so when we think about our young people, there were a couple of things that in watching some of your speeches that I thought about, and one of them is your take on challenge, right? And one of the things that resonated with me was the idea that challenge can come in many forms. There are individuals who are born into maybe wealthier families and others that are not. Others have disabilities. I mean, challenges can come in any form. So when you're speaking to young people, how do you help kind of frame up the idea of challenge and then how to overcome it?
I think the battle with challenge, in a lot of ways, it's a deep conversation and we could go on and on and on. I think the first step is self-awareness. I think it's awareness, situational awareness, self-awareness. It's being able to separate yourself for a moment of understanding exactly what it is that you're up against. Is this an external challenge? Is this something that's coming from maybe having a physical liability? Is this coming from my nurturing, the way I was raised?
Yep.
Is this internal? Am I my own worst enemy? Is the messaging that I'm sending myself standing in the way of me going to where I want to go? So the first step
that's
in it,
super powerful.
Yeah, the first step is really, I think, is self-awareness. It's being able to take a step back and understanding what the impediment actually is, because it may seem to be one thing, but very often it's another thing. And so once you're able to identify what it is, then a game plan starts to formulate.
Yeah. And how, in your experience, does one become aware? Like, if it is that self-limiting thought or that that negativity that's of thought that's maybe preventing you from moving forward, how does one even go about identifying that within them?
Well, that's the hard part. That's I spent years sort of investigating that, not only on a baseball field but in my own life, and I do think mentorship. I do think talking to people who have some wisdom in these fields. I think, I was lucky enough to work with some really, really fantastic mental coaches in baseball. And you find so often that you move immediately beyond on-field performance to understanding what it is that you're taking with you onto the field. And so I learned a lot in those ways. So I think just honest reflection and what's really, really, really important in pitching, God, it's just so important, is honest evaluation. Honest evaluation in your life. Pitching, golf, I find this to be the same way. You don't remember the bad shots. You throw 100 pitches and one gets hit over the wall and you go, oh, I made one bad pitch. Well, you probably made about 10 bad pitches.
Right, they just got a hold of that
one.
They
just got a hold of that one. You got away with the rest of them.
Right.
So really, truly deep, honest evaluation of what happened. What's going on.
Yeah.
And I, for one, I always hated excuses. And they can be very subtle. They don't have to be profound or out front. But being able to recognize when you're not being honest with yourself, I think, is the first step of really understanding what the true challenges that you face are.
Yeah. And you talk about mentors, right? Sometimes if I'm having these thoughts or wherever I'm at a particular crossroads, and sometimes mentors just appear, and other times you seek them out. What are some of the best mentors that you've had over the years that have really helped you kind of get through that crossroads and to that next level?
Well, I was so fortunate. As you mentioned, I grew up missing my right hand. And so I grew up a little bit differently than other kids. Yep. I really wanted to fit in. I wasn't one of those kids who wanted to stand out, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be on a team. And so mentorship and, very early in my life was encouragement. It was positivity. It was looking for solutions that weren't immediately obvious. How to switch the glove on and off of my left hand to play catch or hold a baseball bat or tie my shoes or button a shirt.
Yep.
So that was my parents, that was my friends, that was the quiet moments, where we looked at a situation and said, all right, we can do this. It may not be immediately obvious, and it may take some time to get to. So that was mentorship early in my life. And then I found later in life mentorship coming from people who were honest, and I've been very fortunate. I've gotten, I've played baseball and I've done things enough that people sometimes don't always tell me the truth. They don't always, they may tell me what I want to hear. And I think that can be very troublesome, particularly making, big decisions.
Sure.
I think
Absolutely.
You need to get the truth,
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're spending too much money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of, you're fine, well,
Right.
whatever. And,
Right.
you really, I've found mentorship to be someone who can tell you like it is and be one of those people who can tell it to you without pissing you off.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I found in my business journey is that nowadays when, let's say I'm introduced to a new potential client, I'm really thinking about them and who they are as an individual, not the business opportunity or what financially may come from it if we, get this new deal or this new client. I really want to understand that individual. How do they react under pressure? If something does go wrong, are we going to be able to talk this through and work it out? And so much more. And this leads to my question, which is, in finding those mentors as we get older, have you also found yourself really just trying to understand who the person is? You talked about that honesty that comes through, and I just think that honesty and that trust is just so important that it's like number one, and it kind of everything else flows from that.
Yeah, fantastic. I think inherent in all of that is authenticity. And you like to have one of those radars where you think you can pick up on people who say all the right things, but when the chips are down, where do they stand? Are they going to protect themselves,
the true
or are
colors,
they going to really think about you? If it's not immediately beneficial to them, are they truly going to be in your corner? And I had coaches like that. My pitching coach here in California, a guy named Marcel Latchman, who I think the world of. I was facing a lot of criticism early in my career. There was thoughts of sending me down to the minor leagues and the whole thing. And obviously my poor performance was a reflection on him as a pitching coach. But, he was there. He was there in the room looking at film, and he was there in the media protecting me. And so I saw that at a very early part of my career, and I realized where I played in other cities and other teams, that's not always the case. There's coaches who will cover their butt.
You're on your own, kid.
Yeah, there's what happened there. I told you not to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, not to relate everything to baseball, but I think authenticity is so important,
So
and
powerful.
trust. And then at the end of the day, it comes back to trust, creating trust. And you do that with authenticity and with true empathy, like you were talking about.
Yeah. And so when we think about that, the mentorship and challenge, the other thing that comes to mind for me is perspective or changing perspective. So, and in your case, you had to look at things differently. You had to look at problems differently, whether it's tying your shoes or buttoning your shirt or those things. So for somebody that's, having challenges, how do you coach someone on viewing something from a different angle and maybe finding success in a new way?
I think perspective and mindset are things to be nurtured. My life has provided sort of innate perspective because particularly since I played baseball at a level where it received a lot of attention, whether even in college or even high school, college, and the USA teams, and then of course the major leagues.
And for Fidel, right? You played for
Fidel.
Fidel.
I played against Castro. And, that'll remind Fidel Castro with a bunch of guys with Uzis will provide immediate perspective.
Yes.
But so there were a lot of life experiences, and I met a lot of kids and families along the way who just have real, challenge, real day to day. How am I going to do this type of challenge? And so that in itself, well, not always easy to watch at such a close perspective. It gives you an idea of what the world is about. So. It's easy to say. My wife and I joke about it all the time, and Dana, why is it that we can't hold on to that perspective when we're challenged by some stupid little thing that probably shouldn't bother us too much? And it's real. And again, it just goes back to being able to take a breath, being able to step back, being aware of the blessings and of the challenge, and being able to weigh them out and push forward.
Yeah. And last but not least, our great Michigan football season.
Yes, indeed.
That was
we
phenomenal.
share that, yes.
That was phenomenal. And speaking of football, one of the, I'm sure a lot of people ask you about baseball, but I think one of the great Jim Abbott stories is your high school football career. And so share with me a little bit about your, I think, was it your senior year?
Yeah.
And the starting quarterback maybe got hurt or something, and you had to step in.
Yeah. Well, my football career sort of encompasses all the things we've been talking about, because it was mentorship. I'd never played football before. And the head coach called me and said, "You're going to play," and so I went out there and played.
He just called you at home?
Yeah, and my head baseball coach was the defensive coordinator, so they were
got
all
it.
close,
So
and they were like,
knew,
"Hey, who's got a good arm in the area that we could?"
Right.
And he literally used those words, like, "I hear you have a good arm."
Yeah, right.
And so I showed up and tried out, and I didn't know how to play. I didn't know anything about it, and I saw a different sport, and I really, you hear all the things about kids should play different sports. But football for me was just so different than baseball.
Sure.
That Friday Night Lights,
Yes.
I went to a school that was very culturally diverse. The football team was much more diverse than the baseball program
team
was.
Yep.
And so I got a chance to listen to different kinds of music and different kinds of attitudes. And, so you talk about perspective and mentorship. And then, I did get a chance to play. Our quarterback was ruled academically ineligible.
Oh, gosh, okay.
And he was good. He was very good. And we had great skill set players. And so I ended up throwing the ball in the air, and they would go get it. But, I love football to this day. I love the idea of playing once a week and these different skill sets coming together. And our daughters went to the University of Michigan. We went to several great games
Oh,
together. Some of our best
fantastic.
memories ever.
Yes.
Notre Dame and Ohio State and
Notre Dame in the absolute pouring down rain.
pouring rain.
I mean, we were completely soaked, and I think maybe at halftime we ended up, which maybe we shouldn't be admitting this publicly, but I think we went to Maddie's apartment to dry off, and you and I went and hit 7-Eleven for, I think, some beef jerky and Doritos for dinner for everybody.
Yeah, Ann Arbor was always an adventure, and that
Yes.
was one of the greatest days ever. That was so much fun.
Only eclipsed by the Ohio State in the snow.
That was fun too. That was fun. Our kids were lucky that their time in Ann Arbor coincided with the football program,
Oh.
kind of culminating in
Right.
this final year, and so we'll continue on with that passion, I'm sure.
Exactly. Well, Jim, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for coming in, and I think a lot of our young folks coming, out of school can benefit from your words, and really appreciate the friendship, and look forward to seeing you soon.
My pleasure, pal. It's great to join you.
Thank you, sir.